one, he couple of them he stared down. He got to the read too soon, and because he got there too soon, he ends up staring at. He starts here and then he goes to where he threw the ball. It's one of those things where, hey, I'm here, I hold, and then I come here, focus, and throw the ball. It would have had those guys break a little bit later, and it would have been a better chance for the completion. A little bit of his mechanics. He's got to slow his mechanics down. He's got to slow his reads down. Stay on his initial a little bit longer, and really, go to where you need to go. That's probably the biggest thing that they're going to tell him. I had a chance to talk to both Kenny and Scott about it, and they both felt that he was a little too fast coming off from one to the other. He's got to start with his progression a little bit better, and there were some mechanical issues that he's got to continue to work on and get better at. I mean, again, as I said, the thing that at some point is that he's going through this process, he's growing, he's developing, but we've got to continue to see positive growth. We can't see a regression. And the one thing he has to understand is there's a certain point where you're no longer a rookie.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus television show here on the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. Let's welcome our co-host this week, the former chaplain of the Washington football team, Mr. Milton Harding. A man Tom Knott once called Mad Mike, the mouthpiece of NCAA maniacs, Mike Baker. Washington football team beat reporter and member of the Fairmont University women's basketball 1,000-point club, Miss Donna Hopkins. One of the most prolific pass catchers in the 20th century, and four-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl wide receiver Gary Clark, and a man who played in the NFL for 14 seasons, and one of the all-time sack leaders in the NFL, Super Bowl pass rusher Tony Mac the Sack McGee.
Gene, did you know Geico is now offering an extra 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies?
That's great.
That's 15% on top of what Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? John Stamos to knit you a scarf?
All finished, Gene. Enjoy.
Thank you.
I give.
The stitch work is impeccable.
It's just a double fleck pattern with a reverse garter stitch. No big deal.
Is your hair this soft?
Softer.
Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. At last, a coach that will critique the young quarterback, get him on the right track. And now our job is to critique the coach. Here we are again, me and the comrade. We got G, the coolest man in town. We got Donna, somebody scored 100 points in college that we didn't even know about. And Mike, he's talking about he's a baseball player. Now, how are they going to critique a football player except for you, G? Well, hey, guys, tell me, is that the first time that we've seen a coach really critique this young man?
Yeah, Tony, he really did. I mean, he, laid it out as far as why he had those interceptions, and 3 of them turned into 21 points. He gave them Cleveland good field position, but he was telegraphing all 3 of his interceptions. He telegraphed those passes. And Coach Rivera talked about progression and not seeing him go backwards. Well, he said that he went backwards a little bit with those 3 interceptions. He's doing some good things, Tony. But for this offense to go, the quarterback play has to pick up, and it has to pick up quickly. And Rivera, everybody was talking about should we replace the quarterback? And Rivera said that he's sticking with this young man because just like Cam Newton, you've got to have them in there. But he said that there is going to come a time that if his progression doesn't get better, that there could be a replacement at quarterback.
And you know what, G, just tell me this, and I'm sorry, Mike, I'll get right to you, but G, tell me this. With the receivers and still playing well, even with him learning that means that this receiving core has an opportunity to be one of the best maybe in the league.
I agree. I mean, they can explode. It's just a matter of, like Coach said, eventually, a rookie, you're not a rookie anymore, but he's in his second year, so technically he's not a rookie at all anymore. And he got to finish out the last half of last season, so he's definitely not a rookie. But he's still making some mistakes, but that's why you have conversations after each game that you go into practice the following week and you work on the things that you aren't doing well. So I think once they have opportunity to work together more so often and have a conversation with one another, like when I'm in this situation, I'm going to do this. If the linebacker or back's right in front of me, I'm going to give you a hand and show me where I'm going to go. You throw the ball there. You don't throw the ball here. You go throw the ball where I'm going, not where I'm at. And that's the problem that I think he's having right now. He's throwing the ball kind of like where they're at, not where they should be.
What do you think, Mike? And I tell you, Mike, if you take a look at this whole thing and you look at how was the running game, did that help? Were the turnovers because he was reading wrong or the offensive line wasn't blocking? Hit it, Mike. We got to tell them what's going on.
Well, I'm last year when we were on the set, I was a big Dwayne Haskins fan, and Donna will remember that. I mean, when he was making mistakes before he had those couple of really good games at the end of the season, I was sticking in his court. And the reason I was because he only had one full year of college football. Then he got no help from Jay Gruden. He came in at the end of last year. He showed some flashes. Then COVID. I know. I'm going to be hard on him. COVID-19 hit. Then he has no mini camps. Then all of a sudden, they bring them in at the last minute. We're going to have a season, and we expect him to be great. He's going to make mistakes, and he showed us those flashes of brilliance in the first game, and that was somewhat misleading. But Don is right. He led his mistakes, 3 interceptions and 1 strip sack, led to 28 points. So,
and you know what, Mike? You know what gets me? If we had to take from last year, you were saying the same thing then.
I was.
And I just wonder if that quarterback, Mahomes or whatever his name, we don't know him. He was on the MVP.
Wilson.
And then the guy in Baltimore, we don't know him, but he was MVP. Have they been playing the same years like he has?
I was going to say one thing, and then I'll let you guys just run over me. But Cam Newton, I went back and I looked at some of Cam Newton's early games, the statistics I could find. I never saw that he threw 3 interceptions that led to touchdowns, let alone a strip sack. He gave up 28 points in that game. So to compare him to Cam Newton, I don't know if that's a fair assessment because Cam always had his legs to depend on, and Dwayne does not.
No, Mike, he didn't compare him to Cam. He just said that Cam, as far as for a rookie, made rookie mistakes. But, Tony, you asked Gary, did the receivers do well? What Inman basically stepped up and had 2 touchdowns. And the thing about that is somebody needed to step up. You asked Mike about the running game. Well, they finally used the running backs out of the backfield. They had 3 catches. McKissick had 3, and then Gibson had a few. And then, Gibson had the fumble, and Coach Rivera was talking about the running backs, that he just has to do a better job of holding on to the ball, but he's done a good job. But let me just let you hear about what they said about Terry McLaurin, because as I say, Tony, Terry McLaurin is making plays.
Everything that he works on, he excels at. I was disappointed in the OPI call on, because when you get a chance to break the tape down and really watch it, what Terry really did was, because the defender had his left hand on him, he went and swam the hand, and the action looks like a push off when it's really just a move to get that hand off him and make his break. He runs very good routes, very precise. And when he stuck that foot in the ground and came back and that defender kept going, it does look like a push off, but it wasn't. When you really you get a chance to really break it down, it was not. Terry's been, everything is advertised. It's unfortunate that, that Chase got hurt, mostly, especially because of the way you saw Montez play. If we had a complementary action to that, I mean, Ryan Kerrigan played well, but you have a guy like Chase that's outside on the edge, and you got one guy flushing them to you, then different things will happen. So that was unfortunate. But Chase has played well. Chase has been everything that we thought he would be. Unfortunately, he's got the groin injury. We'll have to see how he is.
When you take a look at this and you look at both teams had 19 first downs, you look at rushing wise, the Washington team only had 103 yards rushing, whereas Cleveland had 158 out of their total 300 yards. Washington did have more yards, and then with 309, But somewhere up in Detroit, I hear some breaking news. Adrian Peterson, 75 yards by himself. Oh, he's not in the Washington uniform anymore. Was it the offensive line's fault this time, guys? Maybe they just, somebody tell me something. I'm just a schoolboy trying to learn his book. I don't know what's going on here.
Donna had the answer to that question, Tony. Now, I was going to give you a quiz on that. This is the first week they were thrown to the backs out of the backfield, and that's why they let Adrian go, because he doesn't necessarily have hands of stone, but he's not the greatest receiver coming out of the backfield. But McKissick is a killer, and come on, Gannon is good coming out of the backfield, and Barber's good coming out of the backfield.
You had the audacity to say that the whole team ran for 103 yards, and he ran for 75, and that's why they let him go?
All right.
And in terms of getting it out of the backfield, we only had a total of 200, passing yards, 200 passing yards. So I mean, we got our work cut out for us. But it's not sort of saying it's a bad thing. Something's a work in progress, which is always a good thing because you're progressing. But you got to keep it real as well, though. I mean, the reason we won the first game, the defense had turnovers and their territory and was able to take the ball, 30 yards. 20 yards, 40 yards in instead of like having the long drives down the field. So, I mean, it's important. The reason we lost this game, 3 turnovers, 5 turnovers. That's why
No question.
5 turnovers, they had 0 turnovers.
Yeah. And Tony, the offensive line, you asked about did the offensive line, what did they do? They did pretty good job. It wasn't that they did a good job of blocking, protecting Haskins, but it was just almost like the turnovers killed them. So this is probably the best I've seen the offensive line play in a while.
Well, if you want to take the turnovers away and you look at that and look at they still, both of them had 19 first downs. So the turnovers were the part that was the part that really impeded them winning. At the same time, they're inexperienced with winning right now. And the one thing I like about the coach, he called it like he see it. And now the fans will know what they need to look for when they're trying to improve, Mike.
Can I look at that chalkboard? You just talked about the coach. There's one thing that he said, and if you grant me a few minutes on the couch sometime in this show, I'll tell you.
Let's do it, Mike. If you ain't scared to get on there, I'll sure ride you on it.
Okay, I want to talk about, let's just go to the chalkboard and what the coach said. Donna pretty much reiterated in her soundbite that basically what he said was you can't throw turnovers. I mean, you can't essentially throw interceptions. You just can't do that. But there's one thing that I heard I'm not so sure about. He said, we are going to develop this football team the way I see fit, not we see fit. I see fit. And I picked up on that. Now, he said it in a very nice way, but it was in response to the whole notion you had 4:32 left in the game. You were down by 11. You had all your timeouts, and you didn't start calling them. And then you got to the end of the game. You didn't call a timeout again, just like you did the week prior. So we can talk about that on the couch, but that is troublesome, not only to me, but some of the fans.
Hey, Mike, don't call me out. You won't do it now, man. If you want the couch, all you got to do is say.
You got to do it. You got to make money, Tony. So,
hey, Mike, I don't have a problem with what he said because it is he's the head coach, so he's going to take the lumps with his decisions. And he said the reason why he didn't call the timeouts again was because they were dealing with injuries. And he said, this is a young team, developing team, and he's not going to put them in a bad position to get hurt. So he said they're developing. So that's the reason. And he said that he will live with that.
Maybe Gary should be in the couch.
Well, no, I'm fine with the statement. I'm fine with the statement. He should coach the team the way that he sees fit because he's on the line. And at the end of the day, they're going to fire him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's going to win, he's going to lose with it. But the things that he said after that, I'm not so sure about because it's football. You can get hurt on the first play of the game or the last play of the game. It does not matter. I mean, I'm always going to try to win, though. I don't care about how much time. I'm going to try to win the football game at all costs. That's the part that I don't understand. That's probably what some fans will understand.
You know what you just heard, fans? You heard a young man say, hey, I just want to win. And that's the mentality they all have to pick up. One good thing about this offense this week, we can say they did some good things. We have analyzed that the turnovers is the problem. But now we go to defense. Donna can throw them money they want, but Chase get hurt. but that defense is still playing okay. But they only gave up 300 yards. And I think when you give up 300 yards, you should win the game. We'll be back in a moment.
Geico's been helping people save money for over 75 years. They've really stood the test of time, much like these majestic Rocky Mountains, which must be named after the Rocky.
That would be Rocky the Flying Squirrel, Mr. Gecko, sir. Obviously.
Come on, Bullwinkle. They're named after...
First President George Rockington.
That doesn't even make any sense, Mr. Winkle.
Geico, over 75 years of savings and service.
And now we talk about the portion of the team that's the reason you get to Super Bowls and the reason you have trophies and the reason Gary Clark got a ring and the reason Donna's on the show and the reason Mike is producing. It's all about the defense and nothing else matters.
You know, Tony, you got me in before you went out for the commercial to say I would throw them under the bus. I would not ever do that. If I throw them under the bus, that means they're supposed to be under the bus.
Okay, what on Sunday did you not see them do? Now look, the whole
Hold on first, Tony. I got 2 rings. Let me just correct the statement you made earlier. I got 2 rings.
I'm sorry.
You get back to it now.
I lost my head a little bit.
No, Tony, but the defense did play well. If you take away those 21 points that Haskins threw the interceptions, it's 13 points. But the defense, Jonathan Allen is having he had an exceptional game.
Yeah.
But they lost Ioannidis in the first half, and they lost Chase Young. And Chase Young has that growing injury. And then during training camp, he was dealing with a hip injury. So, with him out of the lineup, Coach Rivera talked about how impactful this player was in Chase Young. And if they lose him, but I was telling you in the beginning that's why it's important this year that they had depth at the defensive line. And when he went out, some of the other guys stepped up and that defense played well. I mean, they take away those 21 points and this team is right in the mix of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Right? What did you say, Michael?
Yeah, I was just going to say that Donna's right. Settle stepped up. He filled in for Ioannidis, and he was causing all kind of problems in the middle. But if you take a look at the wall, Tony, it's not as impressive as it was last week or the week before. Payne did not have a sack. Young's out with the groin injury. Allen had 1 sack. Now he was a wrecking ball. And
off the chain, man. He was involved in 9 tackles.
Yes, and also, of course, Sweat. All of a sudden, I don't know if you all noticed this, but as soon as Chase Young went out, Sweat turned on a different gain because he was crushing it. He picked up a sack. He was causing all kind of havoc from the right side. So I don't know whether that was because Chase Young went out and he had to do more, whether because Settle was in there. I don't know the configuration, but boy, Sweat stepped up to a new level.
Maybe he had a pigeon on that side. let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. He had a pigeon and he took advantage. That's what he's supposed to do.
100%. Your good players do that. When they see something happen, they pick it up and they have to pick up the slack, because if you don't pick up the slack, you really, really have trouble. So it's good to see that young man's doing that.
Hey, Tony.
Anybody heard anything on what we said, Don?
14 sacks on the year for the defense.
That's pretty high. They probably one of the top ones in the league. But have you heard anything about Ioannidis? Was it serious, or when did they expect him back?
No, they said that they're still waiting for the results to come back on both Chase Young and Ioannidis. So they haven't put that out yet as far as that. But the other player that came back that had been missing in the first few games in the secondary, Tony, was Kendall Fuller. And he made it a difference by being in that secondary. Rivera talked about having him back, the veteran leadership, and you saw a little difference in the secondary with him being back. Although they still it was some issues in the secondary, but he definitely picked it up for them.
Inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Why do you always, and you guys, when we're talking, we always start with the defensive line, then we jump to the defensive backs. Are you saying the linebackers aren't really contributing or what?
Bostic
Somebody tell me.
Well,
is.
I thought Bostic's been consistent since the very beginning of the season. He's amazing in the middle. I mean, I don't think, and he's got speed. I thought Pierre Thomas played well. I mean, I thought overall the linebackers did really well, but that old nemesis of yards on the ground sort of popped up its ugly head. And I will say that they had some serious yards on the ground against it. What was it? About
158 yards out of 300 was on the ground.
Yeah, that ugly head popped up.
And Baltimore is coming in, Tony, which they run the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got to contend with them this week. Ingrid is one of the running backs for the Ravens. So they've got to contend with another ground and Lamar Jackson.
Well, you look at this as an opportunity. If you're going against a former MVP, you're going against a guy that's changing the play of quarterbacks in the league. But at the same time, you have a chance to show that you are a good team now. So everything that's transpired, all the sacks, all the missed tackles, or how much they've been running is unimportant right now. You're going against one of the top teams in the league, in a Baltimore team. And I think what you got to do is look at right there. Everything you've done well, you improve on, and everything you've done wrong, you correct.
I agree totally with you. I mean, this is the game that you want to be in if you're the Washington football team, because they're expecting to kick your butt. They're truly expecting to take you off the field. And any given Sunday, they say that for a reason. We all know that. Any given Sunday, a team can come up and kick your butt 100%. You know, I mean, the year that we won that 91 season, we should have won 16-0, but we didn't. Because any given Sunday, we were on point and the team gave us kicked our butt.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys and the Eagles that year. But now this is a perfect opportunity to get back into it, because quite honestly, you still have a chance to be division lead, even if we may still be. Are we still tied for the division lead?
We are. Let's take a look at the NFC East real quick, Tone. Take a
All
look
right.
at that. Washington.
Isn't that something? You can lose 2 games and still be tied for the lead.
Washington,
Sounds good.
Philadelphia, and Dallas are all 1 and 2. And the powerful New York Giants, they've got real problems. They're 0 and 3. So, yes, Washington is tied for first place. And they've basically, I mean, what can you say? I mean, if you want to put a little effort in this thing, you might win the division.
Well, you know, that's an example, speaking of the Giants, of a team that rushed and they wanted their quarterback in there and they felt like their running back game was tight. But you know what? They really didn't take care of that offensive line. They've had a problem in that offensive line for the last 4 or 5 years, and they didn't address that. That's the one thing I'm concerned with the Washington team, that they got to sooner or later get some high draft choices on that offensive line, because you look around the league and you look at the top teams, and correct me guys if I'm wrong, their offensive lines are always solid. That's what they're talking about. Even though Dallas is barely losing or winning, they know when they get their guys, Smith and other guys back, that they will be dominating. That's why right now, the Washington team needs to build every facet on offense and defense and get it strong. That's why I asked you about the linebacker. Is this crew of linebackers good enough to make this a good defense, Donna?
Yeah, I think so, Tony. It's just, I think that in where you got to deal with some of the safety, Aki is one of the younger guys that is starting. And although, you know, he's making some mistakes out there, I think that that's the area that they suffer on the defensive side of the ball. So you got the defense, Tony, where the offense can't put up enough points. And you got a high-power offense coming in here with Baltimore. You're a defensive player. What do they have to do? What would you do to slow that offense down? Because you know that Lamar Jackson is going to be all over the place. And then the running game, and they've got some pretty good receivers. So you're the defensive coordinator. How do you slow that unit down?
You look at what side that Lamar wants to go to most of all when he's in trouble. And if I remember right, it's probably it'll be to his right, probably because he throw right-handed, but some quarterbacks go different. So the first thing you know you have to do is your outside man, never let him get to their outside shoulder. Always keep on the inside shoulder so you got him contained. Funnel him to the big guys. Make it where he has to make plays, and whenever he does run, put some pain on him. And I tell you what, you do that, then your offense run the ball well and get physical. See, this is Baltimore is a physical team in a lot of ways, but they count on his athletic ability in a lot of ways. So this is the team, the Washington team wants to get real physical with him, keep him contained, make him look down his lanes, make him go to the second or the third option where he's not just sitting back there waiting. Don't let him get to the outside where he get comfortable. That's the first and foremost. Keep him in the pocket.
I wanted to just throw one thing in because I know Donna was also talking about it. I think, Gary, you talked about it, and that is the secondary. You know, it's been a number of years since I've seen guys like Darby and Fuller back there, Fuller coming back from Kansas City in a Super Bowl win. These are two good corners. You remember Philadelphia gave up on Darby not because he lacked talent, but because he kept being injured. That's why he became available. Now he's healthy. Those two guys are a really good quarterback tandem. And you put Moreland in there, you've got some stuff going on. Where the problem, I think, is, believe it or not, is the big money guy, Landon Collins. I heard some former players say that they really signed him as kind of a box safety, a guy you bring up on the line of scrimmage, the guy that's supposed to stop the run. And they haven't been bringing him up. Now, I don't know if that's the defensive scheme or not, but he hasn't been the impact player they were hoping for. And we know that he's gotten beaten a few times. And I don't know about Apke either. I know he's got the speed, but I don't think there's a relationship. There's an on-field defensive relationship yet between those two safeties. And I think that's a problem.
Well, you know, it's going to be a lot of that, Mike, because this whole team, there's a lot of new players on there, plus new coaches. Schematically speaking, they have to set this scheme up to go along with what they have, and maybe a few pieces don't fit. They already have looked at that problem for the simple. They got so many good defensive linemen. They got to go where they play 5-man lines sometime or do something different. Donna, you was about to make a statement.
Yeah, I was just looking, Tony, thinking about the offensive side of the ball again. The Ravens come in ranked 7th in the NFL, and they only give up 98 yards rushing on the ground, which Washington hasn't picked up that many anyway. But the thing about
wait, have Peterson picked up that? Yeah. Did Peterson pick up? Oh, I'm sorry. We got to take a break, so hurry up with it, Donna.
Yeah, Tony, and the other thing is that they blitz a lot, so that's going to be a problem for Haskins this week because they are going to come at him heavily this week.
Hey, G, you see I held her down. I didn't let her get it. I made the bad talk about him, so she don't know what to do. During this break, she going to just say, I'm losing my game. So what you do? Go out here and see how you can save some money with Geico. We'll be back in a moment.
We love our new home. There's so much space.
We have a guest room now.
But we have ants.
You're slouching again, Ted.
Expired. Expired. Expired.
Thanks, Aunt Bonnie.
It's a lot of house. I hope you can keep it clean.
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
Which helps us save a lot of money.
Oh, Teddy, did you get my friend request?
I'll have to check.
Aunt Joni's here.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Well, you know, let me clear one thing up before we go into the room and get on the couch, because, you know, we don't play on the couch. Something's happened with Mike. He got something he want to tell me, and he seems like he's real sincere. So we'll keep Gary and Donna out of this for a minute, and let's hear him whine. He whine a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Mike. Hey.
Well, since I almost cried on the show last week.
Hey, Mike, all joking aside, that was kind of touchy, man. Why you trying to mess us up, man, getting all personal and like Michael Jackson said, getting all sensitive?
Well, you know, it's sort of, I never had a brother, and you're sort of like my brother in a way.
Yeah, we've been there a long time, Mike. Just think about it, man. Well, let's go. What you got to say, little brother? What's wrong?
Here's the problem I'm having, Tony. I'm really having a problem with, I know Ron Rivera is going through cancer treatments, and I know it's tough. And I don't want to come down too hard on him because I have ultimate respect for him. He's a good man. And he came along at the perfect time for this organization with the sexual harassment suits, the name change, and all the problems. He came along at a perfect time. And I was looking at the coaches today. He's assembled an amazing coaching staff, and I'm very respectful of them. The problem that I'm having is the same problem that I saw a little bit with the Washington Nationals. And that is, there were times when I wasn't truly convinced that they were out there to win games, but more to get through this season. I won't belabor the Nationals. We'll talk about them later on. But I will say, when you have a minute 36 left in the game, you're down by 11, and there are other teams struggling to win, calling their timeouts. The first 2 weeks ago, when Coach Rivera didn't call any timeouts, and he had them all at the end of the game, a lot of questions asked reporters. This week, I think, was even more serious. He had 4:43 left in the game, down by 11. And yes, it's true, the other team had the ball, but he could have saved some time by calling timeouts. Instead, he let almost that all-the-way run down. He let it almost run completely down before Washington got the ball back. There wasn't enough time. They still hadn't kicked the field goal, so they were still only down by 11. I'm just having a real problem with this, and for 3 reasons, and I'm going to quote Gary. Gary once said, I asked him, Gary actually once said, you don't play not to get hurt. You play full out. That if you play not to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. And I'm afraid that when the coach says 2 weeks in a row, we don't want to get any more players hurt and lets the clock run out and not try to win, one of 2 things is going to happen. One, you're now putting that in the mind of the players that basically toward the end of the game, if we're down by 10 or 12 or whatever, we're not going to put any effort in this. And I'm afraid the players may not give up, but maybe play not to get hurt. That's one. Number 2 that I'm really concerned about is I still believe what I said last week. I think because there are no fans in the stands, because there's no revenue coming in for the teams, the only revenue basically, except for 1 or 2 teams, the only revenue coming in are the TV rights. So basically, the teams don't have to be accountable to the fans. They're not paying for the parking. They're not paying for the food. They're not paying for the ticket prices. There's no revenue. So the team can bloody do whatever it wants. And I get the sense there's a little bit of that going on with the Washington team, that they're playing to go 1-15 and draft well next year. But I wonder what message this is sending to the team, that we don't give up, but we don't bust our you-know-what at the end of games because we don't want to get hurt.
I think I must disagree with you on that, and I'm going to bring Donna and G back in because I know they want to say something. But you know what, Mike? At the way the coach is handling his health as well as this team, he's not handling like somebody do not plan on being here and having a good team in the future. He's trying to change the culture and the thought process of this organization, because what you have to understand, for the last 8-9 years, it's been a 500 club at best, or a little bit under 500. So maybe he wanted to save those times with the opportunity, just as Dallas saved those timeouts against Atlanta 2 weeks ago and ended up winning the game in overtime. So sometimes your strategy has to go with what mentally is going to help his players most of all. Gary, tell me what you feel about that. Do you feel like he's giving up too much time? And I know die hard, you got to go down, but I think he's now trying to develop a psyche with the players he have on this team.
Well, it would go against my psyche if I was on the team right now.
I understand.
What a fan to me, and they just showed me throwing a temper tantrum over there. If I'm all about winning, I think that you play your guys. I mean, it's our job. It's our job to be fit. It's our job to be in shape. It's our job to go out there and make sure that if we're playing 100%, 9 times out of 10 we're not going to get hurt. It's when you're out of shape and you're not doing the things that you need to do, but you have to worry about injuries. And you have to play through injuries too, because it's just part of the game. I mean, it's football. It's part of the game. You're going to get hurt. There's going to be some players who can play hurt and some players who can't play hurt. It just depends on that type of player's mental toughness at the end of the day. But I want guys that are mentally tough, and I definitely want guys who are always looking to win. And if they don't have an opportunity to win, they better be pissed off after the game is over.
Exactly. But at the same time, do you understand what I'm saying? That he's trying to develop a mentality with this team that we may not take the timeouts when you think we should take them, but I'm taking them to win. And that's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm trying to change my thought process down about this.
Definitely changing the thought process there. I'm not. I don't know. Where's Tony McGee at? Can somebody bring back Tony McGee that I know?
I've been hiding in a hole for 6 months. I'm a different guy now, man.
Tony, I agree 100%.
I'm more sensitive.
And Donna's agreeing with you too.
Tony,
you're in trouble.
one time, Tony, I agree 100% with you because unlike Mike, I don't think that it has nothing to do with the fans about the money or any of those things. That has nothing to do with his decisions. And I believe that he wants to win for this team. But like you said, it's the reason why he is not taking those timeouts. Because at that point, there was no need to take those timeouts.
Thank you.
Not going to
I'm 11 points. You know what? It's 11 points.
With 4 minutes left, G.
Tony. We scored 28 points in 18 plays. You know what I'm talking about?
Wait a minute. He busted himself because he started this statement saying, if I don't like what they're doing, I'll be on the sideline arguing. How many times did we see him jumping on Gibbs?
Gary, that was a different.
I didn't see any players jumping on anybody. Is what I'm saying.
I must agree with you on that one.
I didn't see anybody getting upset about it.
That's that leadership thing.
You were a veteran team.
And at the end of the day, quite honestly, we were coached to call our own timeouts. We didn't have to wait for Joe to call it.
Yeah, because you were a veteran team. If those young guys, they don't know when to call no timeout.
I'm a rookie knowing when to call a timeout. I've been playing football since I'm 5.5 years old.
Look, that was Pee Wee. This is different.
Mike, I think we need a timeout, Mike. These two, we got to separate them, throw some water on, or do something with them, because come on, Mike, what do you think?
Well, all I wanted to say was I'm sorry to have brought in the fans and the money, but I'm seeing a little bit of give up or not the accountability that has to be there when you fill a stadium, when you get the parking fees, when you get all the food and you get all the accoutrement surrounding this game. Now you don't have to account to any fans. You just play in front of empty stands. You do the best you can. You try not to get anybody hurt. I just think it's a whole different dynamic because of COVID-19. And I'm not saying I don't understand it. I'm saying it just sort of, if they're behind, I'm just going to turn off the game at the third quarter, and so is everybody else.
I don't think he's doing it because of that, though.
No,
I don't think he's doing it because of the fans not being there. Because at the end of the day, if you're caring what the fans think, you can't coach anyhow at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Because the fans are going to boo you and they're going to cheer you. They're going to do both those things. You have to be, and he's a former guy, NFL guy, so he already knows all that. Yeah. So I think for whatever reason he's doing it, and his reasons, and because he's a head coach, it's okay that because either they're going to keep him or they're going to fire him. That's just where it goes. Those decisions are going to be a good decision or they're going to be a bad decision. We won't know until in the future.
Now, I don't never cut you off, G, but we got to take a commercial and see, Donna, what you didn't know is Mike was saying your cousin blew it too. And he didn't want you to know that. See, but you weren't on camera, so when we come back, you need to talk about that a little bit. We do have to talk about special teams that maybe they weren't special. Maybe he's a bad cousin. Maybe we need to have more history on you, Donna. We'll be back.
Tara, did you know Geico is now offering an extra 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies?
Wow, okay.
That's 15% on top of what Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? Idina Menzel to sing your own theme song?
Tara, Tara, look at her go with a fresh cup of joe, getting down to work early, following her dreams into taxidermy.
It's tax attorney.
I read that wrong, oh yeah!
Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th.
Don Meadows, nose guard, Denver, Colorado. Earl Lee, offensive guard, starting offensive guard. Ivy Moore, Hot Springs, Arkansas, defensive back supreme. John Griffin, California wide receiver. He looks like a California, don't he? Jimmy Isaac, running back, Wyoming native. Ted Williams, my roommate, running back, tough as they come. Mel Hamilton, the other starting offensive guard. And you know what? Mel was a mayor of a city at one time. He'll have to tell you about that. Jay Berry, defensive back, 6'2", 210. 2 interceptions for touchdowns in 4 games, and the record still stands. Lionel Grimes, professor, great defensive back, but you can see by the glasses the guy is smart. Tony McGee, rode the tail coach to all these players. Joe Williams, running back, played for Dallas, was able to get a Super Bowl ring. Guillermo Highsall, Bakersfield, California. It isn't nothing I have seen that this guy can't do. Let him say it. Wide receiver. Tony Gibson, fullback supreme. One of the hardest workers you ever see. And last but not least, we call him Alabama Buck, but his name is Ron Hill, number 81. Now, Mike Baker, I know your boss, and it's gonna cost you extra. For you fans, this is free. We'll see you later in the minute. You know, when you fans see this part of me that you haven't seen before, and I get so many calls and emails and letters about it, I just want you to know how appreciative I am to get those, as well as the rest of the Black 14. This is a time in our lives where we are young guys that wanted to make a change, but really didn't know what we were doing. But at the same time, we did not let a coach define what we came out to be and what we were determined to happen. So we'll have these segments on. As a matter of fact, we will have one show later on in the year where we're going to have a special co-host, and we're going to do nothing but the Black 14. But until then, we will be giving you tidbits. And I had to thank Mike Baker because he went all the way out to Wyoming with me and did all the filming, and they put it together. And I tell you what, I get more and more comments about it. So it's something that is true to my heart. And no, I'm not wearing the same shirt every week. But I am going to have Black 14 shirt on. And if you ever want to get one, we got them in white, black. Go to black14.net.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you talked about the T-shirt. It's a cool T-shirt. And Tony, they don't know the story, but when we were out there, you all made a certain number of them and gave them away. And you had requests for maybe thousands of shirts. Everybody in the stands at Wyoming, at the game when you all were honored, everyone in those stands, those 10,000 people wanted a shirt.
Mike, you just gave a secret that I thought about, and I told my wife about it. But we were just so surprised that that whole stadium, we could have sold 50,000 shirts that day.
You could have.
And we didn't know how, we were too busy looking and making sure it wasn't any negative things going on. And we didn't know how positive. We walked all the way to the stadium and people shook your hands all the way there. And they gave us 2 or 3 ovations, which was hard on us old guys because, once we fall, we can't get up. But at the same time, it really was a nice situation. And I tell you what, guys, you got to get these shirts. I want you to see them because they mean something. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you guys give me your sizes and I charge all of you guys twice.
It was so cool, Tony, when you were walking into the stadium, there's a tradition you should tell everybody about at the University of Wyoming where the players walk from this small hotel and they walk down this lane. It's sort of like a victory lane all the way to the stadium, and all the people are gathered on either side. You all were the first down there in the line. You got there, and then the players were behind you, and you all stood there in line and you gave them hugs and you shook their hands. And the footage I got of the players' eyes when they were touching you guys and hugging you guys was amazing.
They went out of their way to show us that we were part of their team. And this is the walk that they take from the training table to the field. And they walk all through all the fans and they shake hands. The coach leads them, and they had us right in the middle of it. And I tell you what was amazing about it too, because I was walking and looking at individuals and recognizing the numbers and looking at who used to wear those numbers. But the one thing I noticed, everybody that wore those numbers when I was there was a lot smaller than these guys that are there now. They had kickers that was 6'6".
I have some of that footage just in the 1 hour we did, but I'll pull up the footage of the walk because I got to walk in the back and see you guys shaking hands and everything in the fans. So I'll put that and load that for the show next week so everybody.
Donna, don't worry. I ain't letting Mike get off. You see how he's real talkative now. He don't want to talk about he threw Hopkins under the bus. Your blood. He threw your blood under the bus, Donna.
Tony, he only mixed one extra point. The special teams didn't even get on the
field. Wait, Donna. Now, you can't blow it off like that. That was momentum.
It was an extra point miss, so we take that, but he made up for it, and he made the next one when they finally got to get an opportunity. But the special teams really didn't get on the field that much to make a big impact, Tony, because the other team was scoring so many points.
But they weren't scoring because they were driving the ball and nothing, Donna. They only had 300 yards.
Hey, but look, Tony, they kept scoring touchdowns off of those interceptions.
Mistakes, exactly.
Mistakes. 5 of them. 5 mistakes. You can't win all games with
Hey, G, you know what? She didn't take the battle then, did she? She let a person talk about her relatives, right? And she didn't call them out.
Tony, we can take the lumps because if we make mistakes, we can live with that. So
how many times you get hit on Sunday? I'm sorry.
I gotta root for. I gotta be with the family, you know. And y'all called me out saying my cousin, so I gotta go with my cousin. So
well, Donna, let's talk about something you think you know about. Now, what's happening in this basketball season? We got people we know who's going to be in the finals that you love. But tell me a little bit.
I'm going to bring this up because here's the graphic. The world champion Los Angeles Lakers, they haven't been there. This is their 10th final appearance, but they haven't been there for a while. And when they got Anthony Davis, he makes the difference, Tony. And this Lakers team, they got scoring from all over. So they're a balanced team. But let's just talk about the team that they're going to play against, Tony. It's the Miami Heat. Now, Miami wasn't even supposed to be there, Tony. Let me just get the right graphic up there for you all, Tony. But Miami wasn't even supposed to be there, and wasn't even supposed to be there. But this is how Miami got to the NBA Finals, Tony. In the first round, they was a sweep over the Pacers, and in the second round, 4-1 over the top seed Milwaukee Bucks, and then they closed out Boston 4-2 in that Eastern Division. And we know that Jimmy Butler is the big face in Miami, but Miami hadn't been there, the Eastern title since 2014. So when you look at these two teams going up against each other, as far as the Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers, the Lakers look like the team that, how in the world are you going to slow this team down with all the weapons that they have?
You make them shoot outside, Donna. They can't shoot outside, Donna.
They got
That's
too many
one
weapons.
thing that scares me.
Hey, Gary, what do you think about the purple and gold?
I like the purple and gold because it's JMU, but the Heat, sometimes when you bring that heat, it gets hot in there. It gets hot in the box.
Yeah, but it's close to fall right now. It ain't that hot.
It gets hot up in that joint.
And Tony, they kick off that series on Wednesday night. And you know what? I'm going to pull out my Lakers jersey quite soon because
I heard you talking about they was in the championship that you happened to say way back in 2014. Mike, tell me a little bit. Nationals not in it this year.
Yeah, we can go to Nationals. I definitely can go to Nationals. It's not a problem. But I really want to get in here real quickly before we go away and say one thing. I get really tired of hearing about how doggone good the Lakers are every year. When my Wizards get veritably ignored on this program, with Wall coming back and Beal, some inside presence next year, I think they could possibly get
who's the inside presence?
I think they possibly could.
Right, you hear
I'm starting to feel better about my Wizards. I'm sorry, but I'm get on to baseball real quickly before we go to break.
Thank you.
Season's over. Thank you. Yeah, season is over. I never said anything about this, but Rizzo at the beginning of the year when he was asked why the Nationals were on a 9-game losing streak, he said, well, this team wasn't built for the sprint. It was built for the long haul, for the longer season. At first, I started to say something on the show, and I thought, no, I'm going to let him go. on this. And he absolutely turned out to be right. Not only did he get his contract extended, but he made sure that the manager got a contract extension too. But I agree with him. They went on a 9-game, 7 out of the last 9. They were crushing it at the end. And he was right. You could begin to see how this team was gelling and how they were sort of built for the long haul. But just real quickly, I think you got a guy next year that's going to push Victor Robles. He's your center fielder, and he was the great hope. But he's not. He may have 2 or 3 home runs. He didn't have a good 60 games. But Stevenson, this kid Stevenson, he can do it all. I think he'll be pushing Victor Robles next year, and I think they're going to need one more starter. And Donna's probably watched some baseball too.
Wait a minute,
older.
Mike. You were real smooth with that. You know what? You got through that whole interview not saying that they blew it this year. You start talking about next year. Were they champions recently? I don't know.
No. But they've got to bring back Annabelle Sanchez next year. This is really
You're talking about next year.
No,
all right, we're going to take a break, everybody, and we'll be back to talk to y'all next year about this year's team. We'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, Tony, we talking about the Ravens coming into Washington to take on the Washington football team. And you look how stacked they are on offense. I mean, they've got Ingrid as far as the running game, and they're averaging, 100+ yards. And then you got a court, Lamar Jackson. Say that again?
We're stacked on offense.
No, but they haven't lost a game yet. But they got 4 solid receivers too, Tony, and their offensive
got 4 solid receivers.
Tony, their offensive line, like you said, you build the offense around the offensive line. They are solid there.
Yeah, and when we go in, Donna, hopefully I'll get a chance to go with you this weekend. But when we go in there, the one thing that we want to definitely have on the menu is Poe. If you've never been to Raven Stadium, their mellow mascot sits up in a nest, and it's Edgar Allan Poe, essentially. They named their Raven Poe. He's on the menu this week for Le Pidskin Cafe. He's on the menu.
I had forgot about Edgar Allan. That's right.
Yeah.
Up over the door.
But I didn't like English anyhow, so.
They got 4 pass rushers. They got Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphrey, Calais Campbell, who's one of the better ones, and Deshaun Elliott. They come at you big time, Tony.
We got sweat.
All the time,
we got sweat. We're going to put sweat.
Hey, you know what else? And that's why I said early in this show, this is the team the Washington football team need to be physical with, because they're known to be physical. This is where you make your name. And they go out after these guys who just like me on the picks. Gary and I let Donna be all right on the first picks, and then we just walked her down.
You didn't. I was only up by 1.
What you up by now, Donna?
I'm tied for first place.
Well, you tied.
You're tied. That means you're not up.
Wait, right. Gee,
only this week. I will make up for that.
All right, let's see. What do we got, Mike? What's the game this week?
Well, actually, I want to tell you the game so we can pick them real quick. If we don't get through them, you'll see them on the screen, and I get the picks after the show because we still have about 3 minutes left. Last week, Tony went 7-2. Gary went 7-2. This is totals for the year. Donna 7-2. Milton, who's lost in action right now, 6-3, and Uncle Mike went 6-3. Only 1 behind. This week,
so you went to missing in action guy, right?
Yeah, I am. So we got Indy at Chicago, Minnesota at Houston, New England at KC, Pittsburgh at Tennessee, Jacksonville at Cincinnati. So I'll definitely get your picks after the show, and folks will see it on the screen. But if we could just briefly talk about New England at KC and Cam going to KC, or if you don't want to talk about that, definitely we need to talk about why Chicago's 3-0. But if you want to talk about
I definitely want to talk about it. Cam is going there, and I'm on Gary's kick. I know that Brady's not there anymore, but what I saw of Cam, they bet not sleep on New England. I'm going to tell you, that team, and right now Kansas City is being figured out a little bit. That's what happens to a team after they're in a couple of times. They figure out what they want to do. So I'm looking at New England winning that game. I'm telling you right now.
Okay.
I haven't decided yet because Kansas City kind of does look like the new New England.
Yes.
So I mean, it's hard to bet against that guy. I'm have to wait until after the show to figure out who I'm actually going to pick.
Patrick Mahomes got too many weapons, Tony, along with himself, and they haven't figured out Kansas City enough for New England to go up there and beat them. It's not going to happen, Tony.
Oh, well, we'll see in the picks then. We got a guy down here, a famous guy on the radio, and whenever he wants you to do something, he says, "Say it." So if you believe they're gonna do it, you pick them, and I'll be ahead next week.
Yeah.
That won't happen. But
all right, guys, well, we're gonna have to shut it down. But you know what? We have so much fun here, fans. Y'all come back and have some fun with us next week. And one thing we hope that the Washington team has won. So once again, it's no goodbyes in the minute.